Welcome, everybody. We're going to be talking about the season finale for Rings of Power Season 2. And really, I just want to just go off right out of the bat is that if you have watched any of this series, my apologies to you for wasting your time for coming here and wanting the actual experience Tolkien. Because if you guys have just watched the movies, or if you haven't even watched the movies and you're just like, oh, there's a great fantasy series that my parents grew up with, well, then oh shoot, my apologies there. I thought I had everything streaming on my side correctly here. Let's give this another shot here. um hmm Oh, okay. No, we're good. Okay. Sorry about that. For some reason, my stream looked like it wasn't working for me for a moment there. So, my apologies on that. But yeah, as I was saying, like, for the new people that came in who are looking for Lord of the Rings to get into epic fantasies, and they were just completely disappointed and just left confused. Sorry about that. These writers don't represent the fandom at all. They don't represent actual good writing. They don't really understand how to tell anything in Tolkien's world. So don't judge the Lord of the Rings series or books off of this series. This is completely Amazon. It's Tolkien veneer at the best of times, and at the worst, it's just gibberish writing from the writers. Just starting off basically from the magic system in Tolkien. So Tolkien's system is relatively soft. You can pretty much make the wizards and mystical beings do whatever you really want in Tolkien's universe. It has a very relaxed system to it. Now, something that is hard and fast in Tolkien's universe are oaths and curses. If you go into Legendarium for Tolkien, you'll see it chock full of people making oaths and breaking them and then having consequences following them after, or curses from ancient dragons being placed upon people that have horrendous results. Think of like the Greek myths where a curse was put onto, I forget his name, but onto a young man, and he forgot that his father and mother and who they were, and then he ended up actually marrying his mother, having children with his mother, and then later on finding out that he had married his mother and had a child with them, and then he ended up killing himself because of it. I forget which tragedy that is, but it was some curse by one of the gods that were put onto some Greek hero. I'll have to go research that later, but you get what I'm saying, that Tolkien took a lot from mythology, from ancient myths, and put them into his universe and made it concrete. And one of the best examples of this is the undead army in Return of the King. The way that they became undead is that they broke an oath to Isildur, who they had sworn that when Isildur calls for aid from the right against Mordor, the Mountain Kingdom will come down and join Gondor in their hour of need to wipe out Sauron. And when the time came, he called upon their power. They broke their oath. They did not come. And so the result of that is that they were cursed with life until they fulfilled the oath of the true king of Gondor, which is only fulfilled once Aragorn went towards them, called upon their aid, and they then joined him and then helped him retaking Gondor from the orcs that were almost about to take the city. So that's what I'm talking about, is oaths and curses playing a massive role in Tolkien, and we never really see that in this series. Yes, there's a couple of times where we see people swearing oaths to people. We see Sauron swearing some oath to Celebrimbor, but we never see the result of what happens when he breaks that oath to Celebrimbor. We only see that when he breaks the oath to Celebrimbor, nothing bad happens to Sauron. The only bad thing that happens to Sauron is that he gets found out and he gets everything he wanted. Like, where is the negative aspect here? Yes, you have the prophesizing from Celebrimbor proclaiming that the rings will be your downfall, Sauron, that one ring will be the one that destroys you. I guess at the moment he had a lucidity from one of the Valar that gave him vision of what Sauron's future was going to be laid out. I guess. Or maybe you could say he gained that power to curse Sauron because he broke his oath to Celebrimbor. That's me being generous here, but I don't really buy that myself. But it's something at least we can talk about and maybe discuss in the future of what exactly is the magic system going on here in Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So trying to be somewhat charitable to them, but really they don't deserve it. From here, let's just talk about not Gandalf eventually becoming Gandalf. So we had this whole scenario with Tom Bombadil and him trying to train Gandalf and making him decide, is he going to use his power to fight against Sauron and the Dark Wizard and eventually take over the rest of the Middle Earth, or is he going to choose his friends? He has to decide. And it's a pretty bad lesson, in my opinion, because the obvious answer is to go and save your friends, which our man goes and does from the Dark Wizard, who for some reason then betrays his own men of Rune. For some reason, I don't quite understand the whole scenario that happens here. That, wait, so you sent them out to go look for the hobbits, and now you're out of the blue just betraying them? Like, if you had ordered them to be kept safe and fine, like, why are you now trying to hurt them? Like, yes, okay, maybe you're trying to manipulate Gandalf, but still, like, this way you're portraying, I'm going to presume, Saruman, is completely idiotic. Because he literally says, there are 5 of us that came here, and you, Gandalf, were the one who convinced me to come to these shores to fight against the evil Sauron. And then he just, right out the blue, just states, like, no, but together we can replace Sauron rule here. Like, this is way, way too early for having Sauron fall to evil. Now, maybe it's still one of the Blue Wizards, but I highly, highly doubt it. I really think that these showrunners took this Dark Wizard and are literally making him Saruman just because they can't help themselves but take from the Lord of the Rings at every opportunity and try to shove it into their show. Like, that's literally what we have here. It's just shoving. These last few episodes just kind of prove that. Per example is the dwarves. Man, the dwarves and the rings. Yes, the rings do cause the dwarves become more greedy, but dear God, it's insane. It's like the ring has just completely wrapped him around his finger and has completely consumed him with the desire for wealth, for Doran, for for King Doran. Like, it's maddening. Like, okay, yes, the rings for the dwarves had a negative influence on them. That's fair. You could show us, like, yes, let's raise the tax a little bit more. Let's have a little bit more into the coffers. Let's require the elves and other humans and other people who want to come and buy stuff from us, they got to pay a little bit more. Okay, I'm fine with that. But having such a evil, greedy demeanor, like, have you guys not heard of a subtlety? Like, the whole aspect is completely gone on these guys on how to write subtle characters that aren't just slamming you in the head with, like, see, the ring's evil. Oh, the ring is causing him to become more greedy and more cold-hearted and just blind to the needs of his people. In fact, he gets so enraged at one point that he goes forth and he slaughters a whole bunch of his dwarves in order to get to the mine to start mining it himself. I'm like, what the heck are you doing here? And I wish I could say that Doran, the best character in this entire series so far, was still good, but no, his son has a complete breakdown. Like, okay, I get it. Your father is gone. He's having, like, I guess maybe the best way to describe it is he's falling under some spell, some what's the word I'm looking for when people start Alzheimer's? Maybe you could say that he's having some version of that where you can't even recognize him anymore, and he just starts bawling to his wife. Like, no, Doran would take it. He'd be frustrated. He'd be angry, and would be thinking about the best for his kingdom, for Mount Doom. And he's not a boy anymore. That's the thing. He's a full-grown man that's gone through hardships, that's standing by his own feet. But when it comes to his father, he's not able to think rationally anymore, because he should be able to think, like, okay, what's going on here? How can I best handle the situation? My father, the ring, it's causing him to have negative thoughts, negative influence. It's causing him to go down a path that is not good for the Dwarven Kingdom. If he will not listen to me, if he will not listen to reason, and he's willing to allow this dark, evil creature to come forth and possibly destroy Khazad-dûm, okay, it's time to take the reins by the hands, trying to remove my father from power, or at least wrestle control from him until we can get him back into a proper state of mind. Like, it's not that hard to see the route that Doran should go. But instead, it takes till the last episode, it takes till sixth episode towards the end where the dwarves are like, okay, we've had enough. Doran, we submit to you. Please help us with your father. You have to kick him out. Like, it's not even Doran's idea. Literally, the dwarves have to go to him and beg him to wrestle control from his father and save them. Because what him and Diesel were going to do is that they were just going to go down to the mine shaft, stand in front of it with their axes, and then just wait. Just wait. Just try to scare off the dwarves as they come at them. Like, you're not going to win that way. The only way you're going to win is by taking control of the throne, taking over Khazad-dûm, and helping your father remove this ailment that's affecting him. Because you know what's happening. You know it's the ring. So why not wrestle them to the ground with 6 or 7 dwarves, knock them out, and take out the ring? Yes, I know that they show in the episode that he has killed a lot of the dwarves just so he could keep on mining, but I don't know. Yes, the dwarves are hardy people, and probably the rings make them even more hardy, but I personally find it hard to believe that just the one Dwarven king is able to take on several spry, younger soldiers that are ordered to apprehend the king. I don't know. I personally have some gripes with that, except for the fact that you just want to keep on digging and showing how greedy he is, and thus we get to see the Balrog at the last episode, where after a pretty touching moment between him and Doran, the King Doran takes out the ring and tosses it on the ground, and then he takes his axe and goes and charges the Balrog in order to save his son. Okay, that I respect. I respect that. That was a cool scene. It's just that it's giving me a lot of vibes of Gandalf sacrificing himself for the rest of the party vibes in it. So yeah, just another copy and paste scene here. Nothing really original, nothing really new. Like, okay, maybe you could say it's new because he had a lot of greed, and then he recognized that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have greed, and maybe I should be an actual proper king and save my son and all that here at the end. But I don't know. The showrunners don't deserve any credit for any of the writing. For me, this just looks exactly like a copy and paste from Gandalf, and the only reason why he's super greedy is because the showrunners don't understand how to write subtlety in the characters, how show a slow corruption, how something slowly takes over. Instead, Doran got the ring in the second or third episode of this series, and he's fully corrupted, fully evil by the sixth episode. I'm sorry. I find that personally a little hard to believe that. Maybe that's just me speaking here, but I would have expected a little bit more from the writers on that regard. Now, let's move away from the dwarves and let's go and talk about Galadriel. See, Galadriel has had an interesting experience for the rest of this series. She gets captured by the orcs, and the orcs start to parlay with her. And right at the bat, I'm like, Galadriel would never do this. Galadriel wouldn't parlay with orcs. Now, she may trick them, she may persuade them, she may make some slight deal with them for a moment, but she would not fully agree to work with them on any step of the imaginations. But instead, we have her coming to some pseudo deal with him, like right away just agreeing with him. Adar in the sixth episode, and it's just like, why are you even doing this? Like, she reveals information to him that she doesn't need to. She reveals to him that we have the rings back at the Elven Kingdom with King Gil-galad, and I'm just like, why would you reveal that to him? You could just be like, no, us elves will not help the filthy orcs, or fine, we will help you, but it's going to be under our terms, because he's point blank to tell her that, hey, I need your elven rings of power to go and defeat Sauron. Also, is Sauron Halbrand, by the way? Just to get some clarification on that. And Galadriel just goes ahead and says yes. Doesn't even try to hide it from him. Doesn't even try to do anything. Just willingly gives up information and doesn't try to bargain into her situation at all. And then he goes and tells her that the crown that Sauron was to be crowned with was the crown of Morgoth. I don't know if you guys know this, but Morgoth is a deity in Middle Earth, and so he is a larger than life person, kind of like a giant sized figure, and that puny head crown would be something like for his pinky finger. So I don't see how that could be his crown. Now, if he gave us this massive, gigantic crown that had to be melted down into a set of armor and then a crown, maybe okay. But as from what I've heard from the other guys in the lore community, is that Morgoth's crown is around his neck as a, I guess a choker is probably the best way to describe it. That the Valar had a interesting way of justice that you crowned yourself king of Middle Earth, and now you're going to be having that around your neck as a, I guess, a neck collar. So is my understanding of what happened to his actual crown in the lore from what I heard from others. I haven't read those books yet, so my apologies that that's kind of out there for me. But I do know that Morgoth was a far larger person, and that tiny crown should not have been what was on his actual head. Galadriel is then discarded by the orcs for the time being because they don't have much of a use for her at the moment until they can bring her out again to try a parlay with the elves to get them to deal with them, which Elrond and Gil-galad just flat out reject. And then we have the emphasis scene where Elrond kisses his mother-in-law. Really? You're really doing that? You're really making Elrond kiss Galadriel? Like, why? Like, you have not set up any emotional attachment to them for that regard. They are family in the books, so that's super creepy. He marries her little daughter, so like, yeah, I wanted to go with your mom, but she was too old for me. You're the younger version, so I went with you instead. Ew. Also, just so we get this straight, there's a scene where he's handing Galadriel something right in front of the whole room of orcs staring directly at him and her. There's no way they didn't catch on him handing her some little brooch so she could use that to unlock her cuffs that she then used to escape out later. I'm like, how the heck do you guys even write this bullshit? Like, the orcs wouldn't let anyone get that close. Yeah, he doesn't have a weapon on it. Doesn't mean he couldn't pass anything else to her. Like, showrunners, we're not that idiotic of an audience. Like, okay, maybe some viewers are, but I'm going to say like the 9999.99999 viewers out there would recognize like, this is dumb. Like, you would never let a prisoner get that close to one of their allies because you don't know what can be exchanged. I mean, also kissing each other. I mean, I would just presume you might have passed a key or something to them that they could then use to unlock their cuffs. That would be my presumption. But Adar doesn't think too much about it. He throws Galadriel off to the side, leaves her in chains, and just leaves them be. After that, Elrond and Gil-galad go ahead and start charging the orcs line somehow and start making a beeline for the city. I personally don't understand how they're able to get away with this, because supposedly the orcs are all the way around the city of I'm gonna put the name here in just a second. I forget the name. Give me 1 second here. What was the name of Celeborn City? Okay, let's take a look here. No. Eregion. There we go. Okay, yep. Sorry, I just had to reconfirm for me. So they're all the way around Eregion. So how does Elrond and Gil-galad plan to charge through their lines and get there? They should literally be stopped right on the field where they're at and not able to make another foot forward. But somehow they're able to charge through the orcs' lines, take out several of their catapults, and reach the city wall. But by the time they reach the city wall, there are like maybe 20 to 30 elves left. I'm like, okay, so you just wiped out like 90% of your force that you brought with you. Like, how the heck do you guys even do this? Like, it's the same thing that happens with the Games of Thrones writers, where you had the Dothraki charge straight forward into the army of the dead. Like, are you guys idiotic? Like, why would the Dothraki charge right straight in front of an army of the dead? That makes no sense. They'd be absolutely useless in that kind of fighting. That's pretty much what we have, exactly the same thing here. That for some reason, Elrond and Gilgalad just go ahead and charge straight at the Eragon walls, but they have like no guys left. The majority of the guys just die in the way over there, which is extremely, extremely dumb. Like, I'm sorry, I can't state enough how stupid it all is. Also, at Region, where are your soldiers? Like, we see the walls of Region so sparsely guarded. Like, if this is the crown jewel of elfdom, I would presume you have a lot more soldiers on those walls that would be firing arrows like crazy to prevent anyone from getting up there. Also, at this point, it wouldn't just be men up there, you would be calling on everybody. Sorry. You'd be calling on everybody to come and help save a Region. But instead, it's just a couple elven soldiers at the top, and that's pretty much it. It's so sparsely populated. I'm like, how does this even work? Also, as our good friend over at Shadowversity would say, where are the meticulations on these walls? Where are the battlements for the archers to hide behind and then fire and then go back behind and string the arrow and then go out and fire again? Like, these guys have no idea how you design a castle wall to defend your archers. Like, it's just all waist high, all smooth. So, like, there's nowhere for your soldiers to duck and cover. Like, how is this a good defensive fortification in any way, shape, or form, except for showrunners who have no idea of medieval battlements? Also, another thing about the wall, that wasn't there in last season. So if you guys go and take a look at some photos online, you'll clearly see that Reykjavik had no wall, and then all of a sudden it has a wall. But not just that, you'll also notice that there were islands in the previous season, and then there are no longer islands. Like, the whole terrain is just changing and shifting in the background because they didn't use anything similar from the previous seasons to what they're using now. So, sorry, I thought I heard something over there. So, it's just weird, in my opinion, the way that they're presenting it to the audience and how they're going through it. It's just that they can't stay consistent within their own show. That's causing them massive issues, in my opinion. Now, from here, let's just talk about Sauron, Celebrimbor, and the whole scenario that's going on in the city. First off, it's very confusing for me the way that Sauron is able to go forth and just take complete control over the city without Celebrimbor going forward and telling his assistants and other people in the city, like, hey, listen to Avatar, he's now speaking for me, I'm going to be focusing solely on this ring project, it's all on him to make sure the functions of the city are taken care of, so please don't bother me. Like, they somewhat try to make it sound like that, but like, we never have Celebrimbor himself coming out and speaking to his people, which, I'm sorry, but if I was one of the guys who's working there who's a captain under Celebrimbor, I'd be like, I need to hear it from my leash. I need to hear it from the boss's lips that you're in control, because I have no idea who you are. You're someone who looks like an elf who came from somewhere that's somewhat of great smith, wonderful, but I don't trust you. How the heck can I even trust you to be here? So, like, that made no sense to me that all the elves just, okay, yeah, whatever you say, Avatar, we'll listen to you. You are now running the city. You are now in charge of our battlements. Oh, really? Celebrimbor wants us to charge the enemy lines? That's so dumb. What? Why would we do that? Wait, what? Oh, we're going to stay behind the walls instead? Or, actually, I think I got that mixed around. I think Sauron told the elves that they're just going to sit behind the walls and wait for the orcs to come to them. And instead, he offers a plan to go charging the orcs to make himself look better. Yeah, sorry. That's my bad. I misremember the scene. It was just so dumb. I just remember getting a headache from listening to that. I'm just like, okay, why would you listen from him? Why wouldn't you just go to Celebrimbor and speak with him? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Now, if they showed us a scene of the elves going to Celebrimbor behind Avatar's back and trying to speak like, Celebrimbor, sir, we need your help. The city is under siege. And instead, we have him just talking to himself, just mumbling, like, it's not quite right. That balance, it has to be there. Like, the spirit realm is taking over. It's destroying the rings. How do I get the fluctuation to work? Like, something like that. Something where you can obviously see someone going down to madness. And you're just like, okay, this guy is gone. But we don't get to see any of that. It's just, we're told that these elves believe Avatar full-heartedly whenever he just tells them something negative about Celebrimbor and something good about himself. Like, there's no critical thought at all. Yes, I understand that knockoff Galadriel has fallen for you and she could be listening to you, but the captain of the guard should be pushing back and you're like, no, I need to speak with my lord. I need to talk with him. Like, okay, you may be able to handle day-to-day tasks, but I need to speak to Celebrimbor and discuss the matters with him. Also, one thing that mentions up towards the end when Celebrimbor finally has his eyes open, he finally realizes what's going on around him. Him and Sauron have a conversation. Sauron talking to him like Celebrimbor hasn't lived through the age of Morgoth's wrath. Like, as far as I understand, I'm pretty sure Celebrimbor was alive during the time of Morgoth and the War of Wrath. So I'm pretty sure he has some ideas of what Morgoth was like, or at least he has heard stories of how he treated people. And Sauron tries to sell his story to Celebrimbor of, oh, a poor, weak, pathetic Maiar, but no one should be buying it. The moment he tries to make himself sound sympathetic, it should just be laughed at like, oh, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, Sauron. We all know that you're just as rotten to your core. Because that's the thing, like, Sauron, okay, one thing the Shore is right, he is a perfectionist. He does want things to work efficiently. Now, that's why he makes the ring, so he can have full control and makes the world work that he wants to work it, but he did want to make things like that. So that's fair enough. But Sauron, he wasn't turned evil in any way, shape, or form by Morgoth. He was a miserable, wretched servant that gained pleasure from causing people misery and despair. So, yeah, I have a hard time having any sympathy for the literal devil in Middle Earth. That's pretty much what he is. He's an evil creature that has caused a ton of pain and torment throughout his entire existence, including up till now. And, well, Celebrimbor gets a full taste of that when he sacrifices his own life to fight against Sauron. Now, there's another scene here that I also want to talk about with Sauron and Celebrimbor, and that's when Sauron is to meet with Celebrimbor later on when Celebrimbor has escaped from his captivity. It's further into the, I believe it was the eighth episode at this point. He's freed, he's gotten out, he's stolen the Nine Rings, and he's trying to make a run for it, but he's almost stopped. And then we get Galadriel coming up out of nowhere, and him and Galadriel have a conversation, and he hands the rings to Galadriel, and he's going to go back and face Sauron. I'm like, and Galadriel agrees with this. I was just like, oh, okay, this is great. Sauron's using his manipulations again. He's tricking Celebrimbor, and this is actually Sauron disguised as Galadriel to take the rings from Celebrimbor and then leave the city. That's what I thought. That's what I thought was going to happen here. Instead, what happens is the elves join Celebrimbor and they go back up to the tower where he was kept captive and they confront Sauron. And that's where we get the whole speech of Celebrimbor cursing Sauron to being doomed by the rings that he creates for ultimate power, which, okay, I was fine with. That's probably one of the few areas I actually liked of this episode where some foretelling. Now, it's pretty weak foretelling because it was all written out by a far superior writer and the people were just shoving it into the show, but I will give them some credit that they added that in there nicely, so I'll give them some respect for that. But other than that, it just was trash because those guards, they go back up to the tower and they confront Sauron, who is able to manipulate all the guards' minds, to have them kill themselves, and he easily kills the captain of the guard, and then he just starts torturing Celebrimbor for the location of the rings. Which, okay, fine, but I don't see any way where Galadriel is okay with just leaving Celebrimbor to face Sauron. In my mind, I would presume she should be full-fledged to want to go after Sauron. She should be like, no, you need to stay alive, escape. I am going to go confront him. That's what should have happened. Like, she's been consumed with her hunger and desire to take out Sauron. And at this point in time, she all of a sudden decides, like, no, I'm not going to be consumed by this desire. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to go after these rings to get them out of the city. I don't necessarily think that's what happened. Now, we do later on get here that the reason why she does this, she went out to go and make the deal with Adar to have him join her so that they can kill Sauron forever with the Morgoth's crown once more. It doesn't really work out for them because at that point, Adar gets completely betrayed by his orcs. No surprise there. Sauron is able to manipulate them and take control. And that's pretty much the end of Adar. We then have a nice little fight sequence between Galadriel and him. Between Galadriel and Saruman. Galadriel and Sauron, but it doesn't end well for Galadriel. She still gets her ass kicked in the end. So, sorry, my girl, but yeah, it's an okay fight. It's just so lackluster, man. Like, all the way through the last 2 to 3 episodes, I was just like, you're not doing this. Why? Because you literally could predict move for move what they were going to do. Like, nothing was a surprise. Like, you literally saw everything that happened. The only surprise, and it's a bad surprise, was that Galadriel didn't turn out to be Sauron when she took the rings. That should have been Sauron. That should have been Sauron coming down, morphing himself into Galadriel, tricking Celebrimbor one last time, taking the rings, and leaving the city to let it be consumed and destroyed. Because at this point, the orcs were going to win the battle because they were outnumbering the elves due to their dumb tactics. Now, to be fair to the elves, they had counted on the dwarves to come down and save them from disaster, which for some reason they didn't. Like, I'm going to need a really good explanation of why the dwarves didn't show up to save the elves. Now, the explanation that we get in the show is that the dwarves are trying to handle their king who's gone insane with greed and is opening the passageway to Doran's Bane. But issue with that is you don't need the army there for it. You just need a couple of dwarves to go down to stop the king from digging. Like, I don't understand why that's so hard to do that. Like, if you could give me a better explanation of, like, by putting on this ring, you become as powerful as an army of dwarves. Okay, sure, fine. But my understanding is that it just made the dwarves hardier, greedier, and that's what's the cause of their downfall. Now, I could be completely wrong on this topic, but I need a little more explanation besides that, because otherwise, why the heck didn't you send out your armies from Khazad-dûm to Eregion to help save them from the fall? Like, I just personally don't understand that, but these showrunners, I guess you need an army who does nothing to stop the king. I'm sorry, it made no sense to me at all why the dwarves couldn't come until later on in the episode, where Eregion has completely fallen, the works of Celebrimbor are being destroyed by the orcs. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but then again, this is Rings of Power, so making any sense at all just goes right out the window, in my opinion. Also, in this episode, or in this last 3 episodes, we don't really get to see any greatness from King Gil-galad. If you don't know, King Gil-galad is one of the better elves. Now, I personally don't have a deep lore and understanding of King Gil-galad. I'm going to be completely honest with you there. I don't have a deep understanding of him, but I do know enough that he is a great warrior king and that he was there at the battle of the Last Alliance. At least that was my understanding. And he got slain by Sauron at the fields of Pelennor Fields, I think it was. I'm forgetting the name of the fields in front of Mount Doom. But regardless, like, he should be a badass and taking out orcs left and right is my understanding. And instead, we just have him barely able to killing orcs and is being able to easily be captured by others, which is pretty weird in my opinion. But the showrunners didn't want to write King Gilgalad as the amazing noble king as he is. And that pretty much wraps up with the whole Elven storyline. Sorry, I did forget to mention about the tail ends and Elrond. Elrond doesn't really do much for the rest of this episode. Elrond, he completely fails to go and save his teacher. Yeah, we never get to see him have a chance to either fail or succeed at saving Celebrimbor. Like his father said, there would come a time. We never see that. It was prophesied that there would come a time we had to do it, and we don't ever get to see that happen. Maybe you could argue that time happened when he didn't push harder on King Gilgalad to let them go visit Celebrimbor, but I don't know. It's so weird, dudes. Like, they set things up in the show that have either little to no payoff or just are completely redundant that should not even be in there. Like, the times between pauses and stretching out scenes was driving me nuts. Like, I literally was fast forwarding like 20 to 30 times through some action sequences just because, like, you guys could cut this out, you could cut that out. I don't need to see this as a viewer. You're just wasting my time. Like, yes, the visuals are nice, but the visuals should be the gravy on top for your storytelling. If you don't have good storytelling, padding out the episode just makes me want to die, in my opinion. And they just added a whole lot of that in there. Yeah, as I was going to say, Elrond himself, he doesn't really do necessarily a whole lot. They really do a disservice to Elrond. Elrond is a pretty great warrior in his own right, and yet they just keep acting as if he's just some kind of random weak politician and don't really get to show off a lot of his great moves in this, which is weird in my opinion, but I'm not too surprised by it. Other than that, he doesn't really get to do too much in this episode, to be completely honest. He gets Galadriel's ring stolen from him that she gave to him by Adar. He then returns said ring back to Galadriel, who is severely injured by Morgoth's crown, and she's barely able to be healed by King Gilgalad and Elrond. Once she comes to, she's finds herself in a beautiful valley. I'm wondering if they're supposed to be indicating that this valley would become the Grey Havens, the realm of Elrond later on, or is this supposed to be part of Galadriel's realm? Because I'm pretty sure this is where Galadriel ends up with her forest right outside of Khazad-dûm. So I don't think this could be the Grey Havens. But regardless, that's pretty much where we end the episode with elves, with them all saying that they're going to recommit to fighting against Sauron and also try to use more of the light. Fine, but that's about it. The Númenóreans. Let's talk about those knotheads. So in the Númenor, last time we left off, Elendil was being charged with treason for some reason. I don't know why he was in trouble. He's the one who tried to de-escalate the situation. He's tried to play it down, and in the end, Aphelioson's son is the one who caused the death of one of the people who attacked him, which I think he should get in trouble for, but I guess the guards around him are just very weak-willed and very tight-lipped, which I find suspicious because unless you're going to pay them even better, I would presume that they would gossip among themselves and the truth would get out that no, you actually caused the death of that individual, and then the son would be charged, would be my understanding. But I guess not. Elendil, he is facing a court of his peers at this point. Not really. It's just kind of the wrath of the king at this point, and they are judging him, and he has to first acknowledge his wrongdoings, and then he has to proclaim Alpharazon the king, which is an issue for him because he still sees Maria as the queen of Numenor. Now, he fully accepts the charges for his misdeeds, but he completely rejects Alpharazon as the rightful king. And so it's time for his execution. But instead of that, they decide to have a trial by Ocean Beast, where his fate will be left up to the Valar, which is kind of strange for the greatest civilization of man. But you know what? If you're going to listen to eagles on your leaders, I guess you listen to also giant sea beasts as well. So they bring him down to some water. They call it forth, and he's about to go into the water when it stopped, and Queen Maria goes into a water form and is almost devoured by the sea creature, and then all of a sudden it just spits her back out into the land and lets her go. I guess proving to everyone that she was the actual chosen one by the Valar, and we're just left at that, which I still can't get over, that the giant eagle couldn't just peck at Alpharazon and go over to the queen and shade her with a wing, because this isn't a dumb bird. The great eagles are very intelligent creatures, but the showrunner just wants to just paint them that way, I guess, in my opinion. Now, that's not the end of it, though. Throughout the episodes, I guess Numenor finds out randomly that Halbrand was Sauron for some reason, somehow. They get a parchment from somebody, and once they get the parchment, they then accuse the queen for being friends with Sauron and all the faithful, which is kind of dumb. Like, they never even tell us what's on the parchment that they are charging them with, like how they got convinced that the queen and everyone was working in league with Sauron. Like, we're just supposed to just presumably accept that they work for him and fall under his sway. Okay, like, it'd be one thing if you actually told us what was on this parchment that was so condemning. Like, if the elves could get fooled by Halbrand, why couldn't the court of Numenor also be fooled? Like, that's what I want to know. But we don't get to see any such grace like that within the show, which I can't really be all that surprised with these showrunners. It's just another day for them to go ahead and do that. Now, at this point, as they're rounding up all the faithful, Elendil's daughter, who is sided with Alpharazon for the most part, has rushed out to go warn her father, who is now in hiding to not get arrested. And he's trying to get the queen out of there, but she rejects it, saying that it's her place to stay, and that Elendil needs to go out and pretty much survive from being persecuted at this point. And he takes Narsil, the Flame of the West. Cool sword. It did have my heart fill up a little bit with pride and warmth to see that sword again, but I had to remind myself that this is the Rings of Power, not Lord of the Rings, so that sword honestly doesn't mean anything. I don't even know if that sword would actually be forged or is even there at this time, so I have no idea. But regardless, Elendil now has the blade and he's off on a running to go somewhere. And as he goes, we then go back over to his son, and we have to talk about this. Okay, so Elendil's son, Isidore, I think his name is. I have such a massive issue with these names. I have no idea, so my apologies. His son is for some reason still trying to make moves on the Adar wench. For whatever reason, I don't understand. There was no chemistry between the two actors. There is no reason for them to care for each other. He should still hold some resentment towards her for betraying them and lying to them that she was someone who served Adar. She has a relationship with another guy, as far as I can tell. They're married. The dude is currently clearing out a plot of land for them to build a house to live on, to raise a family. So I don't really see what's going on there. She doesn't really love him, though, and she has feelings for Elendil's son. How? Why? Like, okay, maybe you get butterflies from Elendil's son, but that doesn't make any sense to me. It then comes to this very awkward part where Elendil is going to invite her to join him on Numenor in front of everybody, and then it gets rejected because Alpharasan's son, for some reason, has come to a colony of Numenor to proclaim that they now need to chop down a whole bunch of trees for Alpharasan's fleet. Which, okay, but why are you here? Like, this is a job for, like, a page. Like, you wouldn't send off one of your leading political figures to go to a backwater area and just be like, okay, everybody, we're changing the deal. You're no longer a colony. You are now going to be a fortress that we're going to build up and be a fortification for our expansion. Like, you don't necessarily do that, in my opinion. But that's what they're going to do. It's now an awkward situation. We see that Maria Adar's wench, his husband, is trying to show affection towards her still, but she's not reciprocating at all. Which I'm like, at this point, you might as well just be like, oh, okay, well, my chances with him are long gone. I am now going to live happily with the guy that is going to provide for me and cares for me. Like, maybe you don't love him, and that's something for you to figure out, but I don't understand why she has these feelings for Elendil's son. I'm sorry, I don't understand at all. Plus, he's a Numenorian. He's going to live 3 times as long as you. Like, this isn't the Numenorians from Aragon's time that only live for a couple hundred years. These men, they live for several hundred years. My understanding is that this line of Numenorians, since there's still the purebloods of Numenorians, live to at least maybe 500 to 600 years old. Maybe I have that wrong. Please correct me down below. I might have my understanding completely off basis here, but my understanding that is how long the Numenorians would usually last. I could be completely wrong, so please let me know that in the comment section below. But by the time Aragon was born, the blood of the higher men was become so entwined with the lesser men that their lifespans were getting shorter and shorter with every generation until it'd just be the same normal lifespan of 60 years as a normal human. So even if you were to get married, you would far, far outlive the Adar wench, in my opinion. Is there anything that I forgot to talk about? Don Lemon. I completely forgot to talk about Don Lemon. He's going to be the crowning achievement for this. Not really too much to say for Don Lemon. He never really had too much of a point to the story. After he saved Theo, he kind of just followed the orc army, killed a whole bunch of orcs, wanted to kill Adar, failed to kill him, and instead he got stabbed and looked like he should have died, except for somehow he miraculously survives by the King Gilgalad and Elrond and is there at the end of the season. I don't quite understand how he's still alive at the end of the series, but magic. I guess Adar just really, really sucks at killing his enemies, because that's pretty much what we're getting here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We cover the dwarves, how that's all dumb there. Elrond, Gilgalad, Galadriel, all their dumb decisions. Celebrimbor's dumb decisions. The Numenorians, still dumb decisions that don't make much sense. And Khazad-dûm. Yeah, so sorry if this sounds like it's pretty dragging on the whole series as a whole. It's because it is. If you have any love or any appreciation for Tolkien, this is just a slap in the face for you. Yes, it has a lot of window dressings. It has a lot of member berries, but it just completely slaps you in the face every single turn you take. So I have honestly no regards. Oh, I completely forgot. Oh, female Sam, female Frodo. I am so sorry. The characters that everyone cares about the most. Honestly, if they were to die halfway through the series, I don't think anyone would have noticed them, because that's pretty much what happens to them after episode 5. They are just stuck in that Harfoot village, and nothing really too much happens with them after that. Female Sam, she starts getting more lovey-dovey with the nobody boy, and female Frodo is finding her destiny of leading all the Harfoots together to go find their promised land, to go find the Shire. And that's pretty much the end of their story there. Yes, they get threatened by the Warriors of Rune, but not too much more of that happens with them. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything. But hey, you guys let me know. Am I missing something? Did I not go into depth enough with some areas? Probably I did. It's just that this show doesn't deserve much more comment than this. I try to give it a fair shake for the first half of the season. Um, yeah, this latter half does not deserve it. But you guys let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if there's some areas you thought I can improve, or if you guys thought that some where I wasn't being kind enough to them. Let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. Leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.